Hello, everyone. I'm Felipe Hoffa. Super happy to be here with you today. We have a really packed show. We're going to talk about Tableau and Snowflake, trends and predictions in data, analytics, and AI. And we are totally live. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please feel free to leave your comments here on LinkedIn or on YouTube Live. And with that, we have a super packed show. You can see that I have four great guests today. So let's make some quick intros and some setup of what we are going to talk today. First, let me start with our guest, Ali Tor, Tableau SVP of Advanced Analytics. How are you doing, Ali?
I'm great, and Felipe, thanks for having me here today. Really excited to talk with you guys on the trends of data and AI.
Yes, we are going to discuss trends of data and AI with Ali and with Josh. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm great, Felipe. It's good to see you again.
It's great to see you, Josh, Snowflake Product Management. So I'm really glad to have a conversation between Tableau and Snowflake on where are we going with this. And we also have Madeline and Chandra that from Tableau and Snowflake that you have a demo for us. What is this demo about?
Today we'll be demoing, Chandra will be demoing Snowflake Cortex functions and some AI and LLMs abilities, and then I'll be showing Tableau Pulse connected to that Snowflake data.
Tableau Pulse connected to the Snowflake data. Chandra, how are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling good. Thanks, Felipe, for having me here, and thanks, Madeline, introducing the demo.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I'll start turning off Madeline and Chandra so we can focus on the conversation with Ali and Josh. But quick round, where is everyone today? I'm here in San Francisco. Where are you, Madeline?
I'm also in the Bay Area.
Bay Area, excellent. Chandra, where are you?
I'm in Bay Area.
Bay Area. Josh?
I'm at Snowflake, the Snowflake office here in San Mateo, California.
San Mateo, California. And Ali?
Go San Francisco.
San Francisco, we are all in the Bay Area today. And yes, we have friends saying hi from Asbury Park, from the Czech Republic, Gandhi Kota, that didn't say where they are. Jeff is in Atlanta, so we are live. And Alejandro is saying hi from Bolivia. Hola, Alejandro. Okay, let's go to our conversation. I'm going to turn off Madeline and Chandra for a second. They will be back with a demo. Let's talk about data trends in 2024. So action items, we have data trends 2024. This is a report that we put together. Also, we have the hands-on lab with Tableau on March that was about visual analytics powered by Snowflake and Tableau. You can go watch it now. And we're going to focus on the data trends for 2024. And who better to discuss this than Josh and Ali? Let me start with the first question about the data trends report. AI democratization. What does AI democratization mean for you? How can Tableau and Snowflake help with this? Would you like to start, Josh?
Of course. Yeah. Well, if you've been around the world of kind of business intelligence and analytics, you've probably heard the term data democratization a lot. And like for me, it's always meant how do you take the data or the insights that is available to the few and deliver it to the many. I think Tableau was like an original innovator in that space. You know, taking the BI out of the high priesthood of the data modelers and creating self-service BI. And like from my sense, what's happening in the market now and with AI is another revolution of that. How do you take the advanced analytics, the idea behind Gen AI and LLMs, the compute power required to do that, the skills and the science required to do that, and how do you start expanding that to data workers? How do you expand that to someone who's using a BI tool? How do you turn a data platform into an answering machine so you can just ask it questions and it gives you answers? To me, like what is possible with Gen AI is really like maybe the next phase of delivering on this idea of data democratization.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And for sure, Tableau was one of the first to bring like data into a place where we could all use it. But how are things changing now, Ali?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I totally agree. I mean, Tableau changed the lives of many, and I think changed the, trajectory of the industry as well. I mean, I've been in this space for, 20 years and yeah, we all, I think, experienced that revolution. But if you look at, really what's interesting to me is just being in this space so long and working with a lot of customers, with a lot of partners, with a lot of analysts and decision makers. You look at organizations today, right, from a people and process perspective, leaving technology aside, not a lot has changed, right? And let me qualify this further, right? Meaning there are, millions of knowledge workers, as we said, right, who are in the front lines. They're doing their jobs in finance and supply chain and marketing. They're making millions of decisions per day, right? And they have to interact with some data. They have to interact with their, ecosystem of partners, customers, and so on. And then you got their sort of line, of business leaders who then have to look at how the business is performing. And then you have the C-suite who then makes decisions at the corporate strategy level. So kind of looking across this, alignment of these stakeholders in this, process of decision making, again, you look at all these surveys, and again, it's a minority of companies who say they're driving kind of data-driven decisions in their organization, right? So to me, it's baffling because you can argue, right? We have, so many technologies available today, especially in the last few years, and yet I think companies face the same challenge. How do I break the silos? How do I, go from raw data to insights? And then how do I get this in the hands of, many of the knowledge workers who have to make those decisions today? So I think, as Josh said, right, I think what's exciting is here the technology can help the people and process side of things and accelerate how people both consume and produce analytics to make better decisions. And I think we're kind of sitting at the cusp of that revolution. And that's what I think what's exciting to drive is the next sort of phase of that evolution here.
Yes. And I love what you say that some things don't change. We still have people making decisions and we need to give them the best tools. Now, when we're giving people making decisions tools, when we're building a platform with our company's data, what's the must-have characteristics of a good cloud data platform? How is this changing? I don't know who wants to go first, Josh, Ali.
I'm happy to dive in and at least provide one perspective. In that, like, one of the things that you will hear around the office if you are here in Snowflake is there's no AI strategy without a good data strategy. And so, again, some things never change. The quality of the data you have and the accessibility of that data is super important, even as you're building out your AI strategy. And I think there's some interesting dimensions. Like there's kind of the data democratization story about how do you provide access to information workers and consumers. And I think there's a lot of really interesting innovation there. But there's also, on the base side of the data, I see customers trying to think about how do I get access to analyze data that maybe I didn't think was possible before? How do I ingest a corpus of tens of thousands of documents and turn those documents, that unstructured data, into insights around business decisions? How can I ask that corpus? Maybe I'm, in financial services and I want to ask the question, find me all of the loan documents above this amount from this particular region. And I'm no longer doing that on a table. That access has been expanded to unstructured data. And so I think there's kind of that data foundation has to really support a pretty broad set of kind of data access patterns and data types. And I will touch on this, and then I'm sure Ali has seen a lot of this as well. There are lots of questions around governance. So as you expand access to the data, as you expand the types of data you're looking at, as you start to dabble in and start using models that may have been developed outside of your infrastructure, outside of your walled garden of data. How do you put governance on top of that? How do you make sure you're doing things in a secure way? There's a whole new set of risk vectors that I think customers are worried about, as well as they kind of expand into this world of AI-powered data democratization.
Yes, Ali.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think I'll build on what Josh said. Right, I think so. We talk about and governance. You're right. I mean, I would say the foundation becomes even more critical in the age of AI. Right. I think so. That's my first point. In that, yes, we all want to get sort of every knowledge worker with insights, arm them with information and sort of context around what they're trying to decide on. But at the same time, right, you have to balance that with governance, meaning it can't be a Wild West. You can't just give every worker every access to everything that they may not need or may misuse. And I think that's where the trick is, because how do you strike that balance? Number one, and I think number two, that balance takes on different kind of risk profiles, right? From use case to use case. So I think what was interested in your report was, Felipe and Josh, is that data governance gets more granular with AI, and 100% agreed, right? You cannot just have a one governance policy that applies to every organizational department or user. It just doesn't work that way, right? There are so many different use cases. There are so many different cross-departmental sharing of information where finance and supply chain have to be able to look at the margin of the product. Well, which margin are you talking about? Is it the finance version of the margin, or is it the product margin, right? And being able to sort of agree on these kind of commonalities, and then yet setting boundaries on, well, you know what, we're not going to let the sales team access that margin information when they're making deals, has to be very use case specific. So I think that granular approach to governance, resonates really well with our customers. And I think that is by far table stakes, right? It's not some luxury that organizations can sort of strive for. I think it has to be table stakes in terms of what kind of governance, what kind of, capabilities are putting in place. And then, how does that help your stakeholders in terms of meeting their business needs and, use case needs? So I think that's where we're going to probably see a lot of tension between self-service, yet, governed in a more sort of granular way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And structured data on one hand, we're going to see a demo about it. On the other hand, we're going to talk about governance. And I love the... Yes, Josh.
I was going to say, the governance topic, I think, is... I'm betraying too much about myself to say that I find data governance very exciting. But I think the governance topic in terms of data access is really interesting. How do you make sure that the right sales reps are seeing the right data for their region? How do you make sure you have good data masking of PII data? And then I think on the Gen AI side, there's a new set of really interesting challenges for which I don't know that there are kind of standard solutions yet around how do you actually look at data lineage for a model? If I have a model that is generating some insight, and that model has been trained on a corpus of third-party data as well as enhanced by my own data, how do I actually look at data lineage? It's much different than looking at data lineage for a table and understanding where did this metric come from. And so there's I think a bunch of really interesting evolving data governance challenges around the intersection of unstructured data, semi-structured data, and Gen AI.
Yeah, and I think, one thing I'll definitely add, and this is something that at Tableau and Salesforce, we really talk a lot with our customers, which is, okay, great. So you have to balance the governance with self-service for sure. But in doing so, I don't think, you should build more silos. I think so I think that's where, the rubber meets the road, I think, for a lot of these customers. Okay, so you're telling me I got to protect this data here, protect that data here, of course, subject to rules. But does that mean I'm building more silos when everything is going towards breaking those silos? And I think that's really I'm curious sort of from your perspective, Josh and Felipe, right? That how do you balance the silo or not building more silos while trying to build governance into the cloud data strategy? I think that's a big question for a lot of our customers.
Any thoughts, Josh?
No, I think I would agree with the challenge of safe access without silo creation, and there's I think there's a bunch of techniques that we see customers using around kind of metrics layers and trying to model data in a way that allows it to be shared and reusable and accessible, while also providing some kind of governance on safe access.
Yeah. I have last quick question before we go to the demo, and then we're going to bring everyone back to answer live questions from our audience. But I'm wondering, how do companies prepare for what's coming? How do data leaders, people that are watching us, how do companies and people prepare data lead for the upcoming wave? Ali?
Yeah, I'll go. And I think, we kind of already talked about the foundation. So, as Josh and I sort of said, right, the foundation becomes critical, right? So you have to have that foundation of a cloud data strategy, governance, data management. So those are, again, table stakes. I think with AI, what is going to take a lot more kind of prominence, and which is already doing so, right, which is, there are two things that I'd like to talk about. One is the trust and ethical aspects of AI, right? And there's a lot of debate around today. How do you trust these models? How do you trust what data sets they were trained with? What's their, grounding look like? What's their hallucination, sort of response? So I think there's that big trust layer. And at Salesforce and Tableau, obviously, that's a big thing for us, right? One of our company values is about trust. So, when it comes to AI, a lot's been done and invested in to build that trust into that AI layer. And again, we're not going to go into details today, but everything AI comes from a trusted platform. And that trusted platform has to be, again, another table stakes for any AI foundation, because without it, then it's just not going to work. And then so to that extent, right, what we want to do is also build an ecosystem that promotes that trust, right? So when we integrate with Snowflake, that trusted layer needs to extend to that connectivity, right, that you're establishing between Snowflake and Tableau. So you'll see that today in the demos. So trust and ethics is one. And then the second one I want to talk about is given that we're democratizing to more users, the new set of applications, the data apps, AI apps, new platforms have to be user-centric and open, right? I think gone are the days of a very complicated system where only a data engineer or a data scientist could use. But now we're going more into the consumers, right, who are consuming data. So how do we build new products, new capabilities that are user-centric, right, puts the user in the middle of it and makes it open, right, to integrate with other platforms. So I think we're seeing a lot of this focus on user centricity and interoperability. And again, you'll see today, right, when we built Pulse, that openness and that user centricity is a big part of this offering. So again, I think those two are going to continue to be the top of mind issues for our companies.
Trust in the results. I can't wait to see what Madeline has for us. And Josh, any additional thoughts?
No, I think Ali covered it really well. In addition to kind of that trusted platform and the governance and connectivity, I really like what you said about, at the end of the day, these efforts are around building data products, delivering insights to the business to solve problems. And so, like, sometimes it's easy to get lost in the weeds talking about the technology capabilities or performance, or who's got the best model. But really being thoughtful as you're building your data strategy around what are the important business problems to solve, and kind of evaluating your investments around what is the ROI to the business. I know it sounds obvious, but sometimes it's like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff you can go build and there's a bunch of cool stuff you can do, but really thinking about how do I tie that back to business value and managing those investments, the way you would manage a product, I think is really, really important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Totally. Josh and Ali, I'm going to have you back in a minute, but I have Chandra and Madeline waiting to give us their demo, and everyone wants to see this put in practice. How do we connect Tableau? How do we connect Snowflake? How do we manage security, trust, governability, and the connection between both. So let me bring back Tandra and Madeline. Tandra, what data do you have for us today?
Hey, thanks, Felipe, for having us both back. And I'm super excited to show you a cool demo that we have built to analyze audio calls and drive insights from them. For this demo, I'll be
Audio
working.
call.
Sorry.
You said you are going to analyze audio calls. So you're going to analyze audio.
Yes, unstructured data that just Ali and Josh were talking about, right?
Excellent.
So for this demo, I'll be working at an auto insurance company called Tasty Auto. The Tasty Auto customer team is getting a lot of customer support calls, and the management wants to understand the reasons for this increased number of calls, understand customer sentiment, and if a resolution was provided during the first interaction or it ended up being multiple follow-up calls. Identify the service representatives who are really doing well and need to be celebrated, and those who need to be coached to be efficient. So this demo has 4 parts. The first part, we are going to basically use Snowpark container services to transcribe audio calls that we have received in the call center. In part 2, we are going to use Snowflake Cortex LLM functions primarily to understand the conversation, derive summary of the conversation, and understand the sentiment that the customer expresses in those calls. Thirdly, we are going to identify if there are outliers in the customer sentiment through an anomaly detection model. And last but not the least, Madeline is going to show how this unstructured data can be used to understand the impact on the KPIs the business is really keen to drive, right? So with that, let me just show you the part 1. And here we basically see that the primary priority of Tasty Auto team is to improve customer sentiment. And for that, they want to explore historical call data and understand what it's saying. And so to do that, I'm going to use Snowflake Notebook, which is in private preview. This allows me to actually run a Python code or a SQL code or type Markdown. And also it's extremely easy to bring any package that you might be interested, right? All you do is just click on the packages that you are interested and the package becomes part of your notebook. So that's extremely easy. Otherwise, you know how much struggle it is to identify the packages that you're interested in. And now what I've already done here is already loaded this call center audio logs, MP3 files in a Snowflake stage. Once I have the necessary logs, then we'll see this next set of steps to actually process this. And as I said, we are going to use a speech recognition model called Whisper, which is available from OpenAI, released in 2022. And I'm going to use Docker to push that into Snowflake's image repository, right? So here I've basically going to do this exact step. And once I do that, I have the Whisper audio to text speech recognition model image deployed in Snowflake image repository. The next step is I need some compute to run this service. So I'm going to basically allocate a GPU pool with a simple SQL statement. I'm able to allocate GPU pool on which I will be able to run the service. And once I'm done with creating that compute pool, I will be now ready to basically run this service on top of it, right? So the Whisper model is now running on this compute pool, and essentially now I'm ready to transcribe those audio MP3 files which I deployed. And as you can see, the service is now running. And once I have the service running, I'm basically going to run all this code to show you how we can quickly I've run above. So I'm going to run all this code to essentially take those MP3 files and then get an understanding of what those files are saying, right? So it's running through this process right now. As you can see, these green bars indicating that the code is basically taking those MP3 files and basically deriving the output that we are looking for. Once the transcription is done, we can basically see what is this data telling us, right? So as you can see here, from the MP3 files, I have transcribed that, and I have a conversation which basically indicates what's the conversation that has happened between a customer and the call center agent. With this, we're now ready to basically run the Gen AI models that are available through Snowflake Cortex. We can analyze this transcript and assess customer calls. Okay, let me just make the screen bigger. Okay, customer calls, extract the reason for the call, and see if the issue was addressed, right? So I can easily do this using the LLM functions that are available through Snowflake Cortex. Snowflake Cortex offers access to industry-leading AI models like Llama 2, Mistral as a managed service within Snowflake. We'll use Cortex Complete. Let me just scroll up. Okay, we're going to use Cortex Complete here. As you can see here in this particular, I'm going to use Snowflake Cortex Complete. This is a function that's available through Snowflake Cortex. And here I pass the model that I'm interested in. And also I need to pass a prompt. This will essentially take the conversation from or the transcription and create a chat response output. And the output of the Snowflake Complete can be seen here, where I have the prompt and the extracted information from the transcription that we just derived in the previous step with the Whisper service. Once I have this, I'll now use the sentiment function on the output that was generated by the Cortex Complete, the summarize function. The summarize function gives me a summary of the customer conversation to make it understand the reason for this call. I'll also use the sentiment function here to understand the customer sentiment. What's great about either of these LLM functions is that I can use SQL or Python, whatever I'm comfortable, which means this becomes extremely easy whether you are a data scientist or a data analyst to use Gen AI, right? So this opens up this ability to use Gen AI for everybody within an organization. Under the hood, this is securely processing all the unstructured data within Snowflake security boundary. And in just a few seconds, the call transcripts have now provided us a summary and the sentiment. And here you can see, from the files, I have extracted the duration of the call sentiment, the purpose of this call, and the quality of the call, and whether a resolution was found in the single call, all just with a few SQL commands.
So, Chandra, before we run out of time, what data do you have for modeling today? This is beautiful. It's extraordinary that we can do all of this, but
yeah,
let's keep to the Tableau part.
Yeah, so this is the output that I have for Madeline to basically visualize the sentiment and understand where the sentiment is going and what's the reason for these increased calls. With that, Madeline, back to you, so you can actually show how Tableau can be leveraged to understand this unstructured data and drive insights to the business.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Chandra. Yeah, so I'll go through this pretty quickly, but now that Chandra has used Snowflake Cortex functions to parse through and enrich all of his call center data, we can actually leverage his hard work with LLMs and sentiment analysis to create some actionable insights that can be delivered to the rest of the business users. So what are we looking at here? This is like a new look for Tableau, but essentially this is the homepage of Tableau Pulse. And Tableau Pulse is a trusted and governed way to track some important metrics and KPIs on your data. And it uses AI and LLMs to generate some smart and really easy to read insights on those changes. So I'm going to just dig into one of these metrics here, and we're looking at incoming calls. So this is connected to Chandra's call center metrics data set. And we can see that over time, the incoming calls has generally an upward trend. There's a little headline that Tableau has generated for me as well. It can give me a breakdown of that trend over the last month. And it will also tell me in comparison to the previous period, so what happened last month in the same days, what happened. So it looks like we have an increase in incoming calls. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Maybe it could be that there's a decrease in service quality, but it also could be that generally we've just increased our customer breadth, so we have naturally gotten more inquiries. So that's just one existing pulse, and then now I'm going to build one for you based on the new sentiment analysis data that Chandra has generated. So let's go to that here. So I've connected to the call center data and have the sentiment data source already. We can name this call sentiment. You guys can see that I've been testing this out. We'll call it April so that I can find it later. You can add a description if you want. This will be pretty self-explanatory. So I'm going to choose the sentiment measure. We'll probably want to look at average sentiment just because the sum is going to give us a number greater than 1, but sentiment's only usually measured from -1 to 1. So let's keep it at average. And then I'll also want to specify a date field so that Tableau knows like how to measure sentiment over time and which field to use. And then finally, I will add some filters that the business user can interact with. So for example, maybe we want to look at this by representative. As Chandra mentioned, we want to celebrate those that are doing well and see where we can help improve the general call center program or training. Maybe I want to look at if the call quality was good or bad. If it was bad, we would probably expect the sentiment to be negative because like no customer wants to have a bad experience with like hearing the representatives or extra kind of noise. And then finally, maybe let's look at the issue. So why did the customer call in? And then another thing that we'll want to do is look at the value. So obviously we want our call sentiment to increase. As I mentioned before, an increase in incoming calls is not necessarily good or bad. It might be neutral, but in our case with sentiment, we definitely want it to go up over time. So I'm going to add that specification here. And then we will have our metric. And once it loads, I'll save it. Let's just do that now.
I love this new Tableau.
Oh, great. Thanks for your feedback,
Yes.
Felipe. Yeah, we really wanted to kind of make sure that people could track some of the most important metrics over time. We found that they were doing this on a dashboard, and we thought maybe we can just decouple it from that. So, okay, great. So we have our call sentiment metric here, and we can see that we can actually see which representative kind of had the most issues with sentiment. And we can see the trend the sentiment going down over time. So again, this might not necessarily be a bad thing, but it's showed me that there might be certain representatives that have a higher average sentiment than others. It could be that those representatives that are taking the calls are naturally like always have a more complex issue to take care of. So naturally there might be a lower sentiment. So kind of with Pulse and the power of AI generated insights, I'm able to make some informed decisions about the performance of our customer service and where we can improve with training. So it's really easy for me to follow this. I'll get email updates about it. I can also add other folks to it. And I can also share those messages in Slack. Great. Well, yeah, that concludes my part of the demo. And I think we'll have just enough time for a couple questions left. So I'll throw it back to you, Felipe. But thank you so much. And I'm excited for you all to try out Tableau Pulse. It's available in Tableau Cloud today.
This is wonderful. And how you're giving, how we're using all this new type of data, getting calls, but now giving meaning to things and letting people navigate it. Let me bring back Josh and Ali. We spent so much time going through this deep topic. So let me see how much time we have for live questions now. Benjamin Saladin wants to know, was this a live connection, Madeline?
Yes, it is a live connection to a Snowflake data source. Good question.
Yes. So, by the way, we at Snowflake, we use Tableau. At Tableau, they use Snowflake for the company. So it's great to see all of these connections being made and how we're all making this work better live. Paul has this question. Let's see who wants to answer this. What tools do you have that expose the model in business terms so the average user will trust the data inside Given? Breaking down silos is a great goal, tough to achieve if the real consumers don't understand the business rules and data context. I think Madeline showed us a little bit of that, but What are your thoughts, Josh and Ali?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and it's one of the things that I think Tableau does a really nice job of abstracting away the underlying table structures and column names and kind of messiness of data, and showing to the business user terms that make sense to the business. And like even that exercise that Madeline walked through, saying, hey, these are the metrics, these are the attributes that may be of interest to a business consumer, is up good or is down good, kind of putting that extra semantics around the metrics and attributes so that it's consumable, I think is a really important part of making data accessible.
Yeah, and I'll maybe add to that. So yes, Josh is absolutely correct, Paul. And I think the other thing is that, what Madeline showed was really the interface for the business user, right? Someone who doesn't really understand how the models are constructed, what the data set looks like, right? They don't have the details or maybe the skill set. But by making it easy for them to see what metrics are available, what metrics are accessible, right, based on their governance rules and so on, that's how we sort of like start hitting one of those areas of like, okay, these are approved metrics that are shared across the organization, so everybody's looking at the same thing, and so on. There's another layer we didn't show today, but I think one of the things that Tableau is doing as well, which is coming up soon this year, is our Einstein Copilot for Tableau, where as you build these visualizations and the metrics and so on, again, we're making it very transparent to the user to be able to bring the right data source, the lineage, right, where you're pulling it from, and how you're constructing your analysis, so that by the time it becomes a metric in Pulse, that lineage is also done, and I think assisted with the help of an Einstein Copilot, right, in this case. So I think there's many ways where we're looking at it almost at every layer to be able to make this transparent, governed, accessible, and secure.
Yes. By the way, because we need to start wrapping up, I would love to get each one's last action items. What would you do people to do next? But before I go to next steps, I'd like to ask that question for each of you. Benjamin has last question he's getting in. Can these AI developed pulse metrics also be integrated in data cataloging tools like Atlan?
Great question. So I'll answer that one. Hopefully soon. So we do have a product today a feature today called Tableau Catalog, and pulse metrics will be coming to Tableau Catalog very soon, are available to see in Lineage. And once they're available in Tableau Catalog, then it'll be really easy to integrate with tools like Atlan.
Nice. And speaking of integrations, Josh, how do you see native apps working in this world?
Yeah, I think there is another question around just kind of Tableau and Snowpark container services and native apps, and I think we're partnering really closely to make the integrations between Snowflake and Tableau even easier. Like ideally, remove the friction with connecting data, remove any friction with kind of bringing environments live and ensuring connectivity. So I think there's lots of very interesting innovations that we can make progress on there.
Yes. Cool. So I need to start wrapping up, but I want to give the opportunity for everyone to say their last call to action. By the way, we are all preparing for the Tableau conference, for the Snowflake Summit. A lot is going to happen, be announced very soon. So action items, Madeline.
Sure. I'll say check out Tableau Pulse on Tableau Cloud, and I'll be at Tableau Conference. So if anybody else will be there, you can come say hi to the partner booth and see some of our awesome Snowflake integrations.
Excellent. Chandra.
I think my call to action would be to go to quickstarts.snowflake.com and have a virtual hands-on lab with Tableau and Snowflake. We have built some virtual hands-on lab that help you understand these technologies much better. And be at Summit. We are going to be at Snowflake Summit talking about this.
Yes. How about you, Josh?
Well, I got to say, when we released the Cortex LLM functions and kind of the ability to use the SQL language to kind of ask questions of unstructured data, I was blown away. And so I would encourage you. Chandra gave you a little preview of it, but I encourage folks to get your hands dirty and try out what you can do with the Cortex LLM functions, because it's really, I think it's game changing.
Yeah, Chandra gave us a quick demo of it, but there's so much more that you can do. And Ali, last words.
Yeah, well, great. It's been a great conversation. So my ask will be, let's continue the conversation. Reach out to us with any questions, with any topics. This is a very fast evolving, area, and I think we're all doing our best to bring that innovation to you guys. So I think definitely try hands-on labs. They're amazing. They're attended well, and I know there's very educational for a lot of folks who are just getting into it. As Madeline said, Pulse, you can put it on your mobile phone. So that's so easy. Just please try it, because I think you'll change the way you look at insights. And then, we're going to continue this, hopefully, conversation in other formats. So definitely the summit, the Tableau conference. And yes, please keep it coming. It's a great conversation.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. People that join us live, people, George, Chandra, Madeline, Ali, having a demo, having a deep conversation. It's an awesome thing. This recording is available now, so share it with your friends. And with that, it's my time to call the bird to dance us off. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.